Buckle up and grab your popcorn because we're about to dive into a reality TV scandal so toxic it makes the Real Housewives look like a church picnic. I'm talking about The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives Season 3 reunion, a 13-hour filmed marathon that promised explosive truths about sexual assault allegations and delivered absolutely nothing but Dunkin' Donuts ads and defamation lawsuits. If you think you've seen messy, you haven't seen anything yet. This is the story of how a show allegedly built on faith and family chose to edit trauma into a cliffhanger, exploit a woman's story for ratings, and then get slapped with a lawsuit that exposes the whole rotten machine. By the end of this, you'll never watch reality TV the same way again. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more deep dives into the pop culture train wrecks you can't look away from. Let's start with the biggest betrayal, the audience's trust. For months, viewers of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives were left on a knife's edge after Season 3's dramatic finale. Cast member Dei dropped a bombshell allegation against her fellow castmate Marciano, claiming he made aggressive sexual advances, grabbed her, and created a terrifying situation in a hotel room. The show framed it as the ultimate he said, she said, promising the reunion special would bring clarity, evidence, and resolution. We tuned in expecting a hard-hitting conversation, maybe even some accountability. What we got was a masterclass in avoidance, a chaotic circus where allegations of sexual assault were given the same narrative weight as arguments about casserole recipes and interrupted by cringy ads read from the host's couch. The reunion spent 13 hours filming, an almost unimaginable amount of human emotion and conflict, only to be boiled down into an episode that bounced from trauma to dad jokes without ever landing on a single solid fact. It felt like being gaslit by a television show. And just when we thought the off-screen drama couldn't get any wilder, the legal papers hit the fan. Mere days after the reunion aired, failing to provide any answers, Marciano filed a defamation lawsuit against Dei and the show's executive producer, Jenkins. This lawsuit doesn't just challenge Dei's story, it pulls back the curtain on the production's potential role in orchestrating and amplifying the controversy for views. So why did the reunion, with all that footage and all that time, deliberately choose to leave us in the dark? The answer is more cynical than you think. It's because the truth is less profitable than the mystery. A lawsuit provides a perfect dramatic cliffhanger for Season 4. Real people's lives and reputations are now just seasonal arcs in a bingeable saga. To understand the depth of this mess, we have to rewind to the allegations themselves. During Season 3, Dei claimed that Marciano, during a group trip, entered her hotel room uninvited, made unwanted advances, and physically grabbed her in a manner that left her feeling assaulted. It was a serious, jarring accusation dropped into the middle of the show's usual fare of religious tension and social drama. The show presented it with all the gravity of a Lifetime movie promo, ensuring viewers would be hooked. But almost immediately, the narrative began to sprout cracks. Contradictory evidence surfaced, both on and off screen. There were flirty texts exchanged between Dei and Marciano before the incident. There was a DoorDash order from that very night where Marciano, concerned Dei hadn't eaten, sent her food. An odd gesture from someone who had just allegedly assaulted her. Then came the lie detector tests. Marciano, on camera, took one and passed questions regarding Dei's specific allegations. Dei, when asked to take one, initially agreed but then ultimately did not, a detail the show highlighted, casting a shadow of doubt over her story. The edit constantly shifted, one moment asking us to believe a victim, the next presenting evidence that undermined her credibility. But here's the crucial twist. This wasn't just organic drama. The production's fingerprints were all over it. According to the subsequent lawsuit, producers may have been aware of friendly, even consensual interactions between the two, yet chose to frame the encounter as non-consensual and predatory for the sake of a more explosive storyline. The show wasn't investigating a claim, it was curating a villain arc. They amplified Dei's most dramatic statements, isolated moments of her distress, and edited the sequence of events to maximize suspense, all while failing to engage with the substance of the allegation in any responsible journalistic way. They turned a potentially serious situation into a "who do you believe" puzzle for the audience to solve over social media, absolving themselves of any responsibility to seek the truth. Now, let's walk into the disaster that was the reunion special. Hosted with the finesse of a substitute teacher on the last day before summer break, the tone was set from the jump. The flow was non-existent. 1 minute, the conversation would be veering into the deeply personal and painful territory of allegations of sexual assault. The next minute, the host would be cutting to a sponsored segment for coffee or donuts. The whiplash wasn't just awkward, it was disrespectful. It sent a clear message. The trauma of the cast members was just another commercial break in the show's revenue stream. The highlights, or rather the lowlights, were a parade of cringe. There was the moment host asked Michaela, who had recently given birth, intrusive questions about her postpartum intimacy with her husband, reducing a personal journey to salacious gossip. Then there was Dei herself, who, during a separate cast member's heartfelt discussion about her own past experiences with sexual assault, bizarrely interjected to ask, "Was it rape?" The question landed like a lead balloon, highlighting a stunning lack of empathy and making the entire conversation feel like competitive trauma bidding rather than genuine support. Perhaps most telling was the editing itself. The reunion was dominated by what fans have dubbed dad talk, lengthy segments focusing on the husbands' and fathers' perspectives, their opinions, their feelings about the drama. The mothers and wives at the center of the story, the ones whose lives and relationships were being dissected, were often sidelined. Their voices were clipped short, while the men were given platforms to explain, defend, and opine. It was a bizarre choice that reinforced the very patriarchal dynamics the show sometimes pretends to critique. But the single most glaring omission, the moment that shattered any illusion that this reunion was about truth, was the footage, or rather the lack thereof. Throughout the season and the reunion, a tantalizing detail was dangled. The entire hotel hallway and lobby area was under constant surveillance filming that night. Both sides referenced it. The implication was that the cameras saw everything. This was the promise of concrete, irrefutable evidence. So when the reunion arrived, the obvious question on every viewer's mind was, show us the tape, play the footage, let us see what the cameras saw. And what did production do? Nothing. They didn't present a single second of it. The host didn't demand it. They didn't play it for the cast. They allowed the he said, she said to rage on, fully aware they had potential visual evidence sitting in a vault. This was the ultimate betrayal. It proved that the production was not interested in resolution. They were interested in preserving the ambiguity, because ambiguity is what fuels Twitter threads, Reddit theories, and ultimately clicks for the next season. They had the means to potentially clarify a serious allegation and chose not to use it. That decision alone transforms the show from a passive documentarian of drama into an active manipulator of it. Just days after this non-resolution reunion aired, the plot exploded beyond the confines of the show. Marciano filed a defamation lawsuit against Dei and executive producer Jenkins. This lawsuit is like a behind-the-scenes episode that blows the whole production wide open. The lawsuit alleges that the relationship between Dei and Marciano was far more consensual and flirty than portrayed, pointing to text messages that show a planned, friendly dynamic. It claims that Dei, potentially in collaboration with producers, reframed a consensual kiss and a later argument into a story of assault. Most damningly, it accuses producer Jenkins of encouraging and orchestrating this false narrative, knowing it to be untrue, for the sake of ratings. The lawsuit paints a picture of a producer not as a neutral observer, but as a puppet master, feeding lines, shaping reactions, and editing sequences to create a monster where there might not have been one. And where does Hulu, the platform airing this mess, stand in all this? Their silence is deafening. By allowing the lawsuit to become a dangling plot point for the next season, they are implicitly endorsing a model where real-life legal battles, with their very real consequences of financial ruin and emotional devastation, are treated as nothing more than seasonal cliffhangers. They are monetizing the courtroom. This brings us to the rotten core of the issue: production ethics. The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives has faced this before. Remember Jen's severe mental health crisis in a previous season? The show filmed her at her most vulnerable, editing her breakdown into the narrative, arguably exploiting her illness for drama. There was a backlash then, too, about the line between documentation and exploitation. But with Dei's allegations, they've crossed a new line. This isn't just filming a breakdown. This is potentially fabricating or grossly manipulating the catalyst for the drama. This is villain editing on steroids, applied not to someone being catty about a party dress, but to allegations of a criminal act. The treatment of